So there's nothing to say here because there isn't anything to say anything about, is the thing. There's just this, is forever. This, and this doesn't have anything to it. There's nothing about it. And there's within all of just this, there's kind of somehow there's an experience of perceiving something different, which we call the experience of me, which has a real character to it. It feels limited. It feels heavy. It feels like there's a whole bunch of stuff to deal with, to keep track of, and to do. That's the experience of being a person, it's a separate experience. So that, within this big nothing that there is, which can appear as anything, within that there can be this feeling of being a person, this experience, this reality somehow. Reality we've got to put in quotes because there's no reality to it, but it seems like a reality. It feels like a kind of thing, even though there isn't anything. It feels like a thing even though there's no thing. So the no thing is what's always pointed to in, these kind of communications. The non-duality business is all about just, somehow calling attention to the no thing, that everything is. And the fact that being that there's just no thing here, there's nothing to do, and there's nothing to make out of it. There's a lot of free creation going on in an appearance, which is kind of endless. There's no limit to what can be created and what can show up, and to what can be, what the appearance can be as an appearance, which is just nothing. It's just this. And this can't become anything. There's nothing. It's just what it is. It's just as it is. And there's nothing to be made out of it. So there's a kind of, I want to say there's a kind of relaxation to that, to this condition of nothing that everything is. It's completely relaxed as itself, as whatever it is. There's no tension to it. There's no necessity. Because there's nothing that isn't it. There's nothing that it depends on. And there's nothing that's depending on it. That's why we call it free. I mean, it's totally self-contained as whatever it is. And it's, continual fountain of itself, right? Nothing to put a limit on this fountain of continuous, what do you call it? Aliveness. Totally self-sufficient is what it is. And that is not what the me experience is, or seems to be. A me experience which can show up to no one, feels like a lot of constraints and a lot of rules and a lot of heavy lifting. And a lot of stories to be told, stories to be enacted in particular ways for stories to go. That's the work of the me, getting the story to be the way it should be, according to what? According to some rule. Well, the rule comes from my knowledge of the rules. Where does that come from? Well, it's coming from the same place that everything else is coming from. It's all the same thing. So where do you go to find the rule? Where do you find the rules? Well, they just show up, right? They show up in my, I'm already running according to the rules. Well, I'm running the rules are my knowledge, what I know about how things are and how they should be, right? What's right and wrong, what's good and what's better and what's not good. And then putting everything, arranging everything according to the rules and telling a story of how things arrange themselves or how things get arranged and how I fit into that because I'm one of the things, right? Being arranged inside of all of these moving, relating aspects of a story, which we call things, which we call events that happen, we call what goes on. So none of that's happening. There's just this unknown, not happening in any particular way, not happening at all. The story of what's happening has to be told to find out what this is, right? But what does the story of what this is have to do with anything, with what it is? It never has anything to do with it. It's just only a story. It never becomes anything other than a story showing up in this. Well, everything's showing up in this. The birds are showing up in this. The sky, the clouds. And the story that's told about the birds and the clouds and the sky. It's a big show. And the show that includes, that features the me and my story and how it's going right now, whether it's okay or not, whether I'm succeeding or living or dying. It's just another one of these stories about clouds and birds and sky Doesn't have anything to do with anything. It's not related to anything. It's not related to a person. Unless we want to tell a story of being related to something, some person, some world, some story world. So there's this experience of being in a story, and that experience is, it's characterized by a real seriousness and a real heaviness and a real sense of something going on, something that's important and meaningful because it's meaningful to me, and I'm in the story, and there's this, big deal about it. That can certainly occur as something showing up in this. But another thing that can show up is the noticing that that's just an appearance among all this infinity of appearances. It has nothing to do with any kind of reality, because there isn't any kind of reality. It's not a story. And none of the stories are for anyone. They're just showing up. And all the stories are where all the ones appear to be. That's just going on. It's not happening. It's appearing. So just because something's appearing doesn't mean it's happening. That's kind of the point. And that can be noticed. Notice that everything that's going on is going on inside of a story. The story is where all this movement is going on. All the journeys from one place to another. All the winning and losing, all the succeeding and failing, and all the good stuff. And all the good stuff that's missing from right now. It's all inside the story. And there's no one inside the story. There's no one outside the story. There just isn't anyone. There's this. That's all there's ever been. That's all there is. And there was a story of something else. A story of a journey from here to there, from I don't have it to I can get it to maybe I will get it. All that. I mean, that's, So what all the stories have this kind of these journeys in them. There's all this movement from one place to another, from one condition to another. Condition of not enough to maybe hopefully getting enough, getting it. Condition of not quite working to having it work out and be okay, finally. Within the story, these are the stories that are told within this storyland, imagined storyland. But there's just this, always. It's already just this, and there isn't anything else unless we want to tell a story about it. There's nothing going anywhere. Here where we live. So no one lives inside the story, that's the thing.